So now that you have a better idea of digital lettering basics, what tools you need and what it is, we're actually going to dive in and start using the powerful tool that is the Procreate app. In this section, I will show you how to get set up using the Procreate app, and we'll also introduce the tools used for lettering. Make sure that you have downloaded and purchased the Procreate app, and then you can just press open. As far as using your Apple Pencil, all you have to do is set up your Apple Pencil with Bluetooth to connect to your iPad. So you can drag down here, tap on that Bluetooth icon, and that will get you all set up for connecting and pairing your Apple Pencil with your iPad. Just so you know, if you have the second generation, you put it at the top of your iPad and it will magnetically charge that way. If you have the first generation Apple Pencil, then you'll need to take off this little cap, make sure you don't lose this, and plug it into the side of your iPad to charge it. All right, so once you have downloaded and opened the Procreate app, it will look something like this. You might have some example artworks that Procreate gives you, but we're going to go ahead and create a new project. So in the top right corner up here, tap on the plus button, and we're going to choose this first option, square, to create a new canvas. So this is Procreate. This is the app interface, and I'm just going to briefly introduce you to each of these tools, but later on, we'll get into some projects where we really dive into the characteristics of each of these tools and how to use them, but I will introduce these to you now. So in the top right corner up here, we have all of your painting tools. This paintbrush icon is key. So when you have this paintbrush, you can draw on your canvas with your pencil and you'll see right away the magic of Procreate. So even though this is called the brush library, you can think of it as different tools. So like in regular lettering, you can use pencils, you can use pens, brush pens. In Procreate, you have an unlimited option of what tool you can use. So to pick a different tool, just tap on that paintbrush icon. And these are all of your brush sets. So you can go ahead and scroll through these and find a different brush, such as airbrushing, and you'll see the difference in how it feels and looks on your canvas. Let's skip over for a second to our color menu. So if you tap on this circle in the top right corner, this is your active color. So right now I'm writing with black on my screen, and that's what color is showing up here. To change it, you just tap on that circle, and then you can choose a different color from a color palette down here. If for some reason you don't have a color palette showing up by default down here, if this is blank, just go over to your palettes tab and you can find one and pick a new color. Then you can write with it on your canvas, tap that again to open it up, change your color, and now you're writing with different colors. So that was brushes, colors. Let's move to this finger icon. This is called your smudging tool. If you use it on your canvas, think of it like it's like your finger painting. You're smearing wet paint around, which is great for softening up edges or even blending colors together like this. Over to the right, we have the eraser. This one's pretty self-explanatory. As you use it, you can erase. I'm using this soft airbrush to paint with. Now, if I were to try to erase some of this, it's going to be a very harsh edge right now. So instead, what you could do is tap and hold on your eraser, and it will say erase with current brush, and then it's going to make your eraser tool match your brush tool. So soft brush, paintbrush, soft brush, eraser. Now they match. You can see the difference here of the hard edge versus the soft edge. So that's just a fun tip to remember. I encourage that you explore through the brush library and find a bunch of different amazing looking brushes. I'm going to provide a cheat sheet that has some top recommendations for brushes that you can use for lettering and calligraphy. So make sure you download that in the course downloads. And as you'll see as you scroll through here, there's tons and tons of options. So something cool that Procreate recently added is recent brushes. At the very top of your brush library, you can find your 8 most recent brushes that you used. And if you want one always to appear up here, you can just swipe this to the left and choose pin. You can also find the original set that the brush came from. You can swipe it to the left and choose find, and it will bring you into the calligraphy set because that's where the brush originally lived. So we talked about our painting tools, the paintbrush being the one that you'll write with. Now let's skip over here to the left sidebar. Top slider here controls the size of your brush. Increasing the size will allow you to write with a bigger size, and decreasing this will make it smaller. The bottom slider is opacity. Right now it's set to full opacity for this brush. If you reduce the opacity, you can see this becomes more transparent. If you reduce it really low, it becomes hard to see. So if for some reason you ever pick a brush and you're trying to write with it and nothing is happening, make sure either that you don't have white selected as your color or that your opacity isn't set down to 1%. Make sure it's set higher so you can actually see it. Over here again on the left sidebar in the middle is this little square, and this is an eyedropper tool, so you can hold it with one finger and then use your Apple Pencil to scroll around the screen and eyedrop colors. So before we were using that pink color, if I wanted to use this one, I just eyedrop it, and now that is my active color, which you can see up here. Or let's say I wanted to select black. That's a quick and easy way to do it. Another shortcut is you can use one finger to tap and hold on the screen, and that will allow you to do the same thing. These bottom two buttons here are undo and redo. So you draw a stroke. If you want to undo it, you can tap that arrow, you can redo it. Another shortcut is take 2 fingers to undo, 3 fingers to redo, and you can do that an unlimited number of times. If you hold on the screen, it keeps going, or you can redo all of that. Now, just a note, Procreate does auto-save your work. So everything I've done right now, I haven't clicked save anywhere, and it's just saving it automatically. I do want to point out, if you leave your artwork by tapping on the gallery button and then come back into it, now you can't undo and redo. It just kind of locks to where you last had it. One of the tools that we skipped over here on the painting tools was our layers, and we're going to go into layers a lot more in depth when we get into creating a piece and the projects, but just know that these 2 squares right here are your layers, and we'll talk more about that later on. Okay, let's move back to the top left menu. So this is our editing tools. The first button is just the gallery, and again, that takes you back to all your projects. This one here, the wrench, is your actions menu, which has all of your options for managing and sharing your work. Okay, we'll talk more about that when we are exporting our work. The next one is adjustments. So this is where you can make color adjustments and special effects to your work. I'll show you some of these in the projects section. Next, we have our selection tool. This allows you to make selections of your artwork. And then the transform tool allows you to move things around and stretch them and resize them. For example, freehand select and draw a border around it, tap my arrow, and now I can move it around. I can also resize it. We'll get more into these 2 tools in the project section as well. So that covers all the tools. I want to mention a couple more things before we move on. Let's go to our actions tab, which is the wrench. Now this Prefs tab allows you to change your interface color. So I think the default is setting it to dark interface, which is what mine is now, but you can toggle that on to light interface if you prefer that. It also provides a little bit more contrast. I also like to have the brush cursor on. If you look at my screen here, you can see as I'm using this eraser, there's a little black circle around it. That's the brush cursor. And that shape is going to change depending on what brush you're using. And so I just find it helpful to have it on. And just in case you were wondering if you don't have that black mark around, but you see it on my screen, that is where I turned it on. Okay, so like this one, I can tell that the brush is pretty big because the dark area around it. Okay, so that is Prefs, turn on brush cursor. There's lots of different actions you can do, but one more I wanted to mention is disabling touch. So you might be able to, if you have your brush selected, draw on your screen with your finger. I turned that option off because I found that I was constantly making extra marks with my palm that I didn't want to have on the screen. So if you want to turn off the ability to draw with your finger, go to Actions, Prefs, Gesture Controls, and then in the bottom section, which is General, you can toggle Disable Touch Actions. Okay, and then one more thing about this, as you may have noticed, I've been zooming in and zooming out with my finger. You can rotate things around. You can also work in full screen mode by tapping with 4 fingers on your screen. And so those are just a couple of last tips for you about using Procreate in general.